Hi, my name's Cal, and today I'll be talking about the movie I Care a Lot. I Care a Lot is a thriller / dark comedy revolving around greed, power, and a big jab at capitalism. The story revolves around our lead, Marla Grayson, who exploits the elderly for their finances, belongings, and property by essentially kidnapping them and having them reside within her care homes. Pretty gross, I know. The elderly are used within a monopoly set in the movie's universe to increase the care home owners' riches whilst they are forced to live in a blanketed prison-type lifestyle. Just like the old saying goes, it's as easy as taking candy from a baby if the baby was an old person in a care home. And I actually really like the plot to I Care a Lot because it's such a believable concept. It may even be happening in our world right now, you know? Capitalism rules all. Commies rise up. The movie also has a very stellar cast, being led by Rosamund Pike, which you may have seen before in films like Gone Girl, Die Another Day, The World's End, and Doom. Yes, the movie. Rosamund plays the heartless and twisted character that is Marla so well that you love to hate her. Now that is good acting. As well as Rosamund, we also have great acting from Peter Dinklage, who we all know from Game of Thrones, Avengers Infinity War, X-Men Days of Future Past, and the Angry Birds movies. Yeah! Diane Wiest from Edward Scissorhands, The Lost Boys, and Footloose, and Isa Gonzalez from massive hit Hobbs and Shaw. And a few small films like Baby Driver and Elite Battle Angel. But Hobbs and Shaw, everyone. Give it up for Hobbs and Shaw. So you must be thinking now, okay, this malnourished guy seems to be bigging up this movie a lot. Why is this such a critique video? Well, viewer, here's the thing. The movie takes such a rollercoaster drop in quality that I was left with a sour taste in my mouth. That was from all the lemons I ate that day. Quite literally halfway through the movie, the film quality goes from here and it goes all the way down to here. On my first watch of this film, I was genuinely loving every second of it. It gave me the same vibes as Uncut Gems, Good Times, any Safdie movie. But when you hit that quality drop point, you really know what I mean. I've rambled enough on this intro, so let's just jump right into That's Not My Line. The opener is a monologue from Martha, talking about how the weak don't survive in our capitalistic society, and what she did to put herself in the position she's in today. All people.
Playing fair is a joke invented by rich people to keep the rest of us poor.
During this, we see a first-hand example of how the scheme is actually affecting the elderly and families outside of the home, with this man trying to visit his mother, since visitation is a big no-no under Marla's roof.
And now Miss Grayson has barred me from seeing my mother at all. It's a goddamn nightmare. She has kidnapped my mother.
And after losing his visitation rights, this dude drops an absolutely horrendous verbal abuse bomb at Marla and spits in her face. Yum.
Hey,
I hope you get raped, and I hope you get murdered, and I hope you get killed.
Oh, fuck no, motherfucker.
And with this lovely example of sexism, threats, verbal abuse, we get the underlying tone as well of gender identity in politics. Especially with Marla laying it back to this guy, you know, threatening to cut off his cock and balls.
But if you ever threaten, touch, or spit on me again, I will grab your dick and balls, and I will rip them clean off.
Hell yeah, I guess. After this
Title card!
Thanks, James. We have the scene where we get to learn more about how the dirty scheme works, with the announcement that one of her customers has died, and the room is free, but the room is high market and it doesn't go for cheap.
If you don't pay, someone else will.
Oh, fuck you, Sam. All right, $2 grand.
And so with this news, Marla and her partner Fran, don't call her Frankie, travel to the local pensioner dealer, aka a fucking doctor,
Fuck. Sorry.
and find their next cherry.
Jennifer Peterson.
Jennifer Peterson is a healthy woman with some slight memory loss and no relations to inherit her stuff. Sounds like a few fraudulent medical reports and a court order for her to belong to the state would fix that problem, huh? And so it goes forth, with Jennifer now belonging in Marla's custody as well as her property and possessions too. Through searching her house, Marla discovers Jennifer has diamonds stashed in a safety deposit, with Marla now prepped to build a pick and sword. We see Jennifer lose her phone and all forms of contact to the outside world, with her phone being taken into the home's custody, and her only way of reaching out is through Marla. Now we can see how horribly true this plot is to our elderly in care, and even more, solidifying Marla as a character you don't want to root for or get behind at all. So this taxi driver pulls up. As you can say, this taxi is actually a metaphor for the film's main conflict now arriving, with this dude being one of the members of the Russian Mafia. Not only is this guy in the Russian Mafia, he works for Roman Lunyov, the son of this so-called Jennifer Peterson, and he is a massive mummy's boy. Surprisingly, he is now fucking pissed his mum is captive within an elderly home. Roman is also massively scummy though, because through a tiny scene later on, we see that he partakes in things like human trafficking, not poggers. So that's another villain thrown into the film, and no main character to really root for. At least that's how I felt. With the help of his henchmen, Roman collects intel on who Marla is and what a hustle is. To this, he sends a lawyer, expertly played by Chris Messina, I hope I'm saying that right, to Marla's office to lay some very subtle death threats in the event of her not releasing Jennifer.
Some of us will just die sooner in a more horribly protracted and painful way.
Just a quick note, after this scene, Marla has some dialogue with Fran in a cafe about how two men have only ever got to her through threats.
You know how many times I've been threatened by a man? Thousands. You know how many of them ever came to anything? 2.
And that's all we know of that backstory. Legit. Why didn't this get expanded on? It's clearly quite a big part of Marla's character. So to just be chucked in some random in-between scene seems a bit of a waste. Why didn't we learn who those threats were? Why did they get to her? Weird writing, I suppose. After the threat, Marla takes it to Jennifer to ask who she really is and who are these threats being delivered from. And in this scene we see how horrible the mistreatment is for Jennifer in the home, and yet again proves why do we need to like Marla? She's doing this to her? Confusing, I know. Regardless of this flaw, this is actually one of my favorite scenes from the movie. I feel like Diane's acting was perfectly cynical and disgusting, and she dropped the most vicious cunt I've ever heard in my entire life.
Have at it, you little crock of cunt.
And in response to this, Marla's rage instructs that Jennifer should be put through as much difficulty as possible. High physical tasks, little to no medication, and bare minimum food and other necessities. Horrible person. And with the failure to provide evidence of concerned parties for Jennifer, the lawyer loses the case to Marla, inducing Roman to launch a full-on tactical assault on the care home to get his mummy back. The rescue mission isn't going entirely to plan, but soon shapes up to be a success until Marla hits a home run on the henchman's stomach and keeps Jennifer in her custody. With Fran being a former officer, they take a trip to the station, and this is when the Russian mafia plot is revealed. Oh yeah, remember not to call her Frankie.
Keep us in the loop if you hear anything else.
Sure thing, Frankie.
Don't call me Frankie.
We used to like being called Frankie.
Yeah, not anymore.
I told you. And if it wasn't obvious, Roman is beyond pissed off at this point, so he decides to hit back out of court or legal manner. A henchman slash woman, I'm not sure what to put here, so I do apologize for the misgendering of hench person, is sent to the doctor's office and politely puts a bullet in her head. Deceased. Word gets out via the news and Marla returns to her apartment where Fran is packing shit ready to get out of town. Marla then says no, and they're staying put. Why? If the reasoning for this is Marla's pride, then yeah, I can agree with that. But if someone launched a full-on assault to get an elderly person out of your home and then killed your doctor's friend, why stay? Why put your family and loved ones through it? I guess you could say that was pretty... The joke is that it's a counterintuitive record study. Counterintuitive. Marla then has one final visit to see Jennifer in hopes of finding out about her past, but Jennifer continues to antagonize her into a masterful dialogue about how she owns Jennifer and how she'll wither away in Marla's custody.
This is your life now, Jennifer. You are just another old lady with no one except me.
This dialogue is just mwah, chef's kiss. Jennifer then attempts to choke out Marla, and with this being part of Marla's crafted plan, is caught on CCTV, which is then handed to the court as evidence to support Jennifer going a bit insane and her being sent into harsher living situations. And now this is where the movie takes its dive. If I'm being completely truthful, I could have just stopped the film here and gone away and let my imagination come up with different ideas of how the film could have ended, and that would have satisfied me more, because I was not happy with how the film unfolds after this part. After storing the diamonds in a safe spot and preparing to leave the city whilst there's heat on their heads, both Marla and Fran have encounters with the Russian mafia. Marla being kidnapped in a car park and Fran being horribly beaten. Now we have the first ever face-to-face meeting between Marla and Roman. Roman threatens to have Marla's mother killed after he's done with her, leading Marla to call her a sociopath and not give two shits.
Go ahead, I don't give a shit about that fucking sociopath.
Another fine example of a plot point that I'd have loved to explore, seeing as it has built Marla's character to this day, and they just whiffed over it again, like a fart in the wind. If there's a director's cut or an extended cut of this film, I would love to watch it. Please release the Snyder cut of I Care a Lot. Even within the face of being killed, Marla shows this militant-like response to having no fear of death, and even tries to negotiate with Roman, laying the offer of 10 million and Jennifer will be returned. All Marla wants is just to be rich.
I want to be very fucking rich.
Unfortunately, Roman doesn't take this offer and decides to get rid of her, instructing the kill to be clean and made to look like an accident. And now this, ladies and gentlemen and non-binary folk around the world, is where the plot armor is strapped to full capacity. Roman's goons set up Marla to be in a car crash with what I assume is alcohol being put into her system and a nice bottle of booze in her lap, simulating a DUI. But Marla spontaneously awakes whilst the car is crashing and sinking and escapes the death trap. What the fuck? This film has such a quality drop in the last act that it genuinely upset me, because this film was set to be my favourite film so far of 2021. Godzilla vs. Kong, fuck you if you disagree. This was just such a big disappointment. And with this primal screech, Marla has what I like to call her Rambo awakening. She recuperates, gets back in time to find Fran beaten and left to die in a gas explosion. Great job, hench people. Leaves her apartment in time before it blows up. This genuinely happens. I don't know if this was a writing issue, a directing issue, or if they just ran out of time on set, but how lucky could Marla get in this film? But back on track with the movie, Marla and Fran share some healing time together, and I can't fault the two's relationship within this film because it feels very natural and not the usual Hollywood gay couple. Not that it's my place to discuss this, I wouldn't feel right morally doing that, but it was a really nice relationship to see on screen for once. But hold on folks, we're still in this movie's universe, and so Marla and Fran decide it's time for revenge. The pair locate Roman's driver and track him all the way from his house to Roman's HQ. Marla then infiltrates with a crafty disguise and then kidnaps Roman. Marla and Fran then simulate a drug overdose to Roman, making him a John Doe, and give him Marla the ability to have the state put him in her custody. Holy shit, yes, this movie took a turn. But not only this, Roman proposes that both for him and Marla should start a business together, sharing a global empire of milking the elderly. That sounds so wrong, and I apologize to everyone watching this video for that comment I just made. So this is the movie ending. We're left with Marla talking another monologue about capitalism yet again, and her being a lioness, and then boom! That's right, Marla gets fucking capped. Never have I seen such a flatter shock ending to a movie before, but I've now seen I Care a Lot. She was a genuinely horrible character, and probably got this coming to her, but wow.
That was a shito.
And that is the official ending point to the movie I Care a Lot. And I ask myself this question still to this day of recording: where was the care for I Care a Lot? I genuinely loved all of this movie until Marla's Rambo awakening point. It just didn't make sense for Marla to suddenly become an 80s action hero right as the film's climax hit. All of the actors did really good jobs of their performance. All of the relationships on screen were very compelling. The film's color scheme was beautiful and vibrant. I love the random quirks each character has. I actually skimmed over this point, but throughout the movie there's a few scenes where Marla has this little vape pen that she uses. And it turns out that Marla actually used to run her own vape shop until she was run out before some local competition, and that's why she did the elderly scheme. And we found this out through an interview?
But you see, the backstory of Marla is that she had a vape business until she was Walmarted out of business by a great big discount vape store opening across the street, which she was furious about.
Again, why was this never mentioned in the film? Did Rosamund just take the piss and make this up on the interview? Is this real life, or is this just fantasy? There's just so many loose ends throughout the film that it really brings down the highlights of I Care a Lot. I really urge you to watch this film and don't just take my critique as the final verdict. Watch the film for yourself and watch all the great parts of it, and you might even enjoy the ending, even if I didn't. So thank you for watching this video, and thank you for your time spent on me. It really means a lot. I care a lot. If there's any movies that you'd want to hear a person ramble or review about, you can always just put them in the comment section. That would be really helpful for me, and I'd be so grateful for it. And if you really want to go the extra mile, you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I apologize for the current quality setup. It's not the best. I'm using a Logitech C920 camera, and it's the afternoon, and the sun is blistering. But thank you again so much for your time. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.